Hello and welcome back to another video today here again on Forza Horizon 5 to take a look at another brand new car pass car, which I've just noticed has a, well, terrible boot for a hatchback because it's all taken up with spare wheel for some reason. So yes, if you haven't already guessed what it is, this week's car pass car is a Mazda 323 GTR, which in some markets was sold under the name Familiar GTR. And as far as I know, this is a completely new car to the Forza franchise, to the Forza series, which is a nice contrast to last week's Porsche, which we've paid for in DLC in 3 games now. But anyway, the Mazda 323 GTR was built as a homologation special so that they could take it into Group A rallying. I believe it was just built in the years 92 and 93, the one in game being the 92, and over this time only 2,500 were built, which I guess is the number required for them to take it into rallying. But yeah, the one in game is 1992, being a homologation rally car, it is of course all-wheel drive, has a small 1.8 litre engine producing 207 horsepower. In Forza, the internet seems to think it has one more than that, 208, weighing in at 1,250 kilos, putting it at a category of C-Class 589 PI stock. But I think what we should do now is take it for a drive before we see what it can do around the festival. So, as well as the blueprint I've put together for the festival circuit, which was a 5-lap blueprint, I have also made this new top-secret road test route, which starts here at the Tulum Trail before winding its way through the jungle all the way up to the roundabout here. It takes you down the motorway so we can do a bit of a top-speed test, and then loops its way round to finish up at the festival, where of course we will take it for a few laps. So, the idea of this being, we've got a varied selection of roads to test the new cars out, whatever they may be. So we've got a high-speed motorway section, which we can go all the way to the end if we need to get up to high top speeds in supercars, or we can turn off slightly earlier if we're in cars like this, because there are actually no checkpoints on this route, apart from the finish line. So I can go a slightly different way if I want to, which is nice and flexible, but it means I can show you my test drives from nice angles like this, rather than with speedometers and maps and things cluttering everything up. But anyway, hopefully this will be a good little route going forward to compare some cars. So far, apart from a bit of understeer, the Mazda seems quite nice. So I did just before this drive the Nissan Pulsar around a bit, because it's a similar competitor, to try and get a feel for it, and that handled in a similar way. It kind of understeered most of the way through, and then as the power came on, it sort of pulled itself out of the corner a bit. So, yeah, I have also taken that around the festival, which we'll get to when we get there, to comparing lap times. One thing that's annoying me from chase cam, I don't know if you've picked it up in any of the replay cameras, but playing this in chase cam, that number plate bracket on the rear is absolutely hideous. As for the interior, well, I briefly kind of showed you the boot before, which was taken up almost entirely by spare wheel. It's just kind of a 90s Japanese car, isn't it, really? It's quite basic, nothing really of note here. Oh, actually, one interesting thing about this that they said on the Forza stream is apparently it was sold with a limiter because of some kind of regulation in Japan, and to remove it, all you had to do is take a screw out of the speedometer. So, as you'd expect, it drives quite well. In terms of how it looks, it's, well, very bland, much like the Pulsar, to be honest. But anyway, it drives nicely. Let's see what it can do in terms of top speed. So I've picked this direction on the motorway because you get the sort of, well, a longer downhill segment, which has put us up to 144 miles an hour. I can't see it getting particularly faster than this. No, it's dropped again. I think there isn't one more downhill, so we'll see if it goes any faster there. One other thing I did notice is it does actually have a Mazda Familiar badge on the back. It says Familiar, not 323. So I don't know if that's a mistake or if they're all badged like that, but in some markets they were called a 323. Anyway, I believe this is where we will hit top speed, if anywhere. Yeah, 46. 150. Yeah, I don't think we're going to see much more than 152. And as I don't think we're going to get up to a higher speed, I will just dive off here. Which conveniently brings us into the festival, where of course we can start our 5 laps of festival circuit, see how it compares to other cars, most notably the Pulsar. But yeah, in terms of driving, it drives well, handles nicely. Doesn't have the biggest top speed, but it did go faster than I kind of expected it to. Interior and exterior is all a bit bland, but drives nicely. Let's see what it can do around the festival circuit. So, if you haven't watched one of these car reviews before, basically I take the car for 5 laps around the festival circuit and then show you some replay footage of the fastest lap. And prior to taking the car in question around, I often take something similar around as a benchmark. So I have taken around another 90s Japanese hatchback that is of course the Pulsar GTIR, which is very similar to this. It's a little older, 1990, it's also all-wheel drive, has a slightly bigger 2-litre engine with power up to 227 horsepower and weight down to 1240 kilos, so it has a slightly higher stock PI than this of C594 and set a benchmark time of 1:19.6. Now, I did notice driving the Mazda, I actually prefer driving this. The Pulsar had more sort of mid-corner understeer before it pulled itself together on the exit. This kind of felt smoother through the turns. I could feel that there was slightly less power on the straights, that was noticeable, and the slight addition of weight. But in the corners, I actually preferred this, surprisingly. But yeah, it did struggle a little bit down the straights, but there it got turned in a lot better. I was running wide on that corner every single lap in the Pulsar. So, quite interesting that this kind of handles better despite being slightly heavier. But, yeah, struggled a little bit on the straights, although this final corner I could take flat, which I couldn't in the Pulsar, as we come across the line. So, the little Mazda 323 GTR does it in a 120.314, which is less than a second slower than the Nissan Pulsar, and now we've taken these two round. There are now 32 cars on the leaderboard, but they are both next to each other in 27th and 28th place, so the Mazda slots into 28th, just behind the Nissan, which kind of makes sense. It's at 589 PI, where the Nissan is up to 594, so a little higher. But more interestingly, both of them beat the Lamborghini Espada, which is up at 597, really at the top of C, and did a 120.8. So they're both faster than that. I think they were just more handling based, and around the festival a bit of confidence in the corners really makes a big difference. The Lamborghini really did struggle, and it was difficult to get the power on the straights. So that kind of makes sense, and they kind of fall into roughly where I'd expect them to, in that little group of C-Class cars down there. But now I think it's time to take a quick look at what upgrades and customization are available before we take it round the festival again in its modified form. So, here we are in the upgrade shop. So as usual, I'll take you through the engine swaps and aero and appearance bits to see what unique options are available before we build it to the top of B. Given it's towards the top of C at the moment, we build it to the top of the category above, and generally I try to keep the engine and drivetrain as standard to keep it fair on all of the cars, although I have just spotted a 2.6 litre 4-rotor racing engine, which is always a brilliant conversion. Probably not the most efficient, but anyway, we've also got a 3.8 litre V6, a 2 litre inline-4 and a 1.6 litre inline-4 turbo rally. Let's take a quick look at, there'll be a usual rear-wheel drive conversion in there, I think. So at the front we just have Forza Aero, at the back we have, oh okay, we can remove the wing, we can put on a second wing, which I probably will, or we can do Forza Aero. Front I just checked, side skirts, mud flaps. Yep, it is a bit of a rally car after all, and what can we do here, turn that into a, no, we can put a roof scoop on the roof. Those are your sort of unique options. Let's put on a quick build to the top of B-Class and then see what it can do around the festival after that. So, after throwing a quick build on, the weight is down to 1,192 kilos, power up to 239 horsepower. I did opt for full-width sport tyres to give it a little bit more grip. although it didn't necessarily need much more in that department, but it's also got race transmission and bits like that. But a bit more power, bit less weight. Let's see how it compares to the two previous B-Class cars I've taken around the festival, the Celica and the Renault. So, same as with the stock version of the car, it's going to get 5 runs, 5 laps around the festival, and I'm going to be showing you the best one here. So the two previous B-Class cars I've built that were new that have gone around here were the Renault 8 Gordini, which did a 116.443, which really wasn't a very good build at all, and the Toyota Celica, which did a 113.0, which was quite good, I think. So that's more the time we'll be aiming for in the little Mazda. We won't worry about the higher category cars, they're kind of slightly irrelevant. But yeah, felt nice. I think if I did it again, I would add a bit more power and maybe adjust the gears a little bit. As I do with all of these, I build them very quickly, just to get an idea what the car will be like, compared to other stuff that I've built when it first comes out. It's just to get a quick idea of what a modified version of it would be like, and whether it's worth going in and building a version 2 to take part in any races or anything. But yeah, drove nicely. I think I could have pushed it a little bit more, but it kind of didn't have much more power over stock, and still understeered a bit, so it wasn't the best thing to drive. But we did shave a little bit of time off the stock time. So the little Mazda drops into 10th place with a time of 1:15.108, so it is 2 seconds slower than the Celica. The Celica I did know was quick, so I'm pleased it's closer to that than the Renault, but the Renault was pretty terrible. But yeah, it should really have been a bit quicker than that if I'd built it well, I think. I think it should really be not a bad car, but in terms of me throwing on a quick build, the Celica was immediately much faster, so potentially this won't be that brilliant. I think I did say I was going to put that funny little wing on and then didn't, but anyway, not that that would have made much difference. And yeah, well, that is the modified version of the little 323 GTR. So, well, in both forms, it was kind of the same story. It drove nicely, drove better than the Pulsar, probably drove better than the Celica, if I'm honest. It just wasn't quite as fast as either of them. So I slightly prefer driving it to either of those, but it wasn't quite as quick. So out on the road in stock configuration, I did really enjoy it, and around the track. So I will probably take this tune off and put it back to default, because that's, well, how I found it drove best, and I did quite enjoy it like that, and it did quite well around the circuit. Slower than the Pulsar, but both of them faster than a Lamborghini, which wasn't too bad going. But there you go, that is a first look at the Mazda 323 GTR here on Forza Horizon 5. I will be back same time tomorrow to check out the Hongguang Wuling Sunshine car thing as the second new car this week. Both of these being brand new to the series, I believe, so not bad going. So if you do want to see a little first look at that car, that should be going out same time tomorrow. But for now, that's a first look at the little Mazda. So thank you very much for watching, and I will be back with the next video very soon.